Hey guys, Andrew the Realtor here. Welcome to my month of May 2022 newsletter market update. So I'm gonna get right into it. I wanted to do this a little bit earlier in the month than I have in the past few months, mainly because the market has been changing quite a bit. The information here actually is quite beneficial. Hopefully I won't go too long. I know some of you guys sometimes can only take so many minutes of this, so I'll put a little list of things that I'm going through, including this introduction, all the way down to the Q&A at the very end. So let me get right up to it here. I'll try not to speak too fast, but I have had my coffee, and I will do slideshow. And here we go. So why is this on the very first? I want you guys to take a look at this. I thought this was very funny. A realtor out of Vancouver who does a lot of business put this up. I thought it was fantastic. Tina Mack, shout out to her. So this is very typical because I'm seeing this mentality again. I saw it a few years ago, back in 2017 or so, and look at the prices compared to that now. Our buyer here is wishing they had bought at this point, and then I kind of wish I bought at this point, and at this point, and here this is May 2022. The market looks like it's dropping. No, it's a bad time to get in. Well, today's down market is tomorrow's missed opportunity. I might make a note here. Notice this is the bottom part. How do you know it's the bottom part? When it starts going up. Same here. This is the bottom. How do you know it's the bottom? Well, because you only know when it starts to go up. You only know the bottom of the market, so to speak, when it actually starts to go up again, which is then too late to be at the bottom of the market. The point here being, guys, is opportunity is currently available to buyers, and I want to make that stress that point now, while at the same time not discouraging the sellers, because it is still a seller's market technically, and very much in many areas visibly as well. So moving right along. Here are the numbers. I'm going to put myself in the middle. Forgive me. Make myself minimal here. So on the left, let's go left first. On the left is the monthly. So undoubtedly, this is some of the stuff you'll hear on the news. In terms of the numbers, last month, April, because obviously May we don't have the numbers for yet, versus March. March was a busy month. Not as busy as March 2021. But that's only because that was a record. So the second busiest March was March of this year. So here we go. Average price, notice the difference, drop of about 50,000. Again, average, always with a grain of salt, but still overall. So it's close, slightly lower. April this month versus April this year versus March of this year. So just a month difference. Notice the active listings. This is a biggie. Whenever the average price starts to go down, why is that? Well, because this is the supply and this is the demand. Demand has increased. What will happen? Supply has increased. Forgive me. If supply increases, demand is still strong, but supply increases, obviously price is going to go down. It's 28% more, well, almost 30% more active listings, active inventory out there for people to buy than in April versus March of just a month before that. So notice then also the prices, everything across the board went down on average. And this is talking about April this year versus March of this year. Quite normal because March was pretty crazy, as was January and February. But notice a shift. I mentioned this in my last month's newsletter, and I wanted to show this to you. This is the shift visible. You can see about $45,000, $50,000 on average drop. That's obviously average, including very large, expensive detached homes. But overall, there is a drop in price. Now, are we then, is the market bursting, market crashing, bubble bursting, all those usual euphemisms people like to use on online and on TV? What's actually happening? So let's look at the right one. On the right is April last month versus April 2021. 2021 was a crazy, crazy first half, insane first half in terms of numbers. But let me show you how strong we still are. So sales are obviously down tremendously. Homes sold are down 41.2%, so almost 42% in terms of how many homes were sold April last month versus April 2021. So that's a given. Things obviously slowed down. We had some strange weather, and right down during the March break, when the inventory began to increase, obviously the interest rates started coming into play as well. So whenever that happens, there's not only the actual mathematical difference in terms of interest rates for people who are getting financing, but also the psychological effect of people hearing about it. In fact, if you're watching this and you're at all intent on looking at the market sometime this year, or maybe you were and now you're kind of holding off, one of the big reasons is the interest rates. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that in just a little bit. So active listings, notice active listings are 12.3% higher April this year versus April of 2021. That obviously shows, again, increase in overall inventory. If the sales are down 42%, you would almost kind of expect the inventory to be higher if you're selling that much less. And that is the case. Less new listings as well. So the overall listing onto the market. and selling what is on the market has slowed down. But at the same time, active listings are higher, which again tells you that the prices are going to slow down a little bit. But that's this year. What about April versus April 2021 in terms of average price? And that is, of course, you can see here, I did not circle it, is up 15%. So in this time of market going down, market cooling off, which I'm constantly hearing about, you'll notice that average price last month still up 15%. And that's during a cooling off weird time, including the interest rate hikes that were higher than over in the past 20 years. So in 20 years, we have not increased interest rates that quickly as we did just a few weeks ago. So that's pretty crazy. Market is still 15. So again, I want to emphasize this. The prices are still up. They're not going to be dropping down tremendously. There will be some changes, especially in areas that have competition. In areas that do not have competition, it's not going to happen. Here's the thing, and I want to go back to this here, and actually I'll go back to that little picture shortly. Here are the sales. If you recall, I've been saying this year, getting information from very good sources. This year, obviously, is not going to have the same numbers of last year in terms of overall sales. Last year was a record, about 120,000, 121,000 sales recorded by the Toronto Real Estate Board. This year, my guess, and the guess of many smart people smarter than I, was about 100,000. So a drop. 17, 18, 20, close to 20% if you do the math there. So far, what do we have? Well, as of the end of April, in the GTA, this is 416, this is the rest of the GTA, an overall GTA, 33,600. So 4 months in, a third of the year, roughly a third of 100,000 active sales. So why am I mentioning this to you? Why am I throwing these numbers? I don't expect you guys to remember, as I always say, but I'm showing you the theme here. It's still a busy year. There's still going to be lots and lots of sales. So I'll bring you back to this thing. If this is you, and I hope it isn't, by the way. Come on, buddy, move over. There we go. If this is you, consider this. The sales this year are going to be good. If you're sitting on the sideline, you're here. You're here. You wish you'd have bought here and here, but now, again, you forget this, the lesson learned here, and you're in this area here. I will tell you only this. As of this moment, it's a great time to be a buyer. Honestly, it is. It is a good time. It's not a buyer's market by no means. We have to have a lot more inventory for that to happen. And with this being an election year, I know we're getting promises of those things. I don't know how much of this is going to come to fruition. Nonetheless, we still need much more inventory to come to even a balanced market, never mind a buyer's market. So why am I mentioning this specifically after showing you what's been happening? It's going to be a busy year in terms of sales. It's going to be a very busy year, much busier than a lot of the other ones. Even in the past maybe 5-6 years, it's going to be a busy year. Not as busy as last, but busy. So as a buyer, consider this. If you're just waiting for more drops, well, what if there are like 50,000 other people doing the same thing as you? These buyers that are holding off because of interest rates, the shock of interest rates, the election weird things and promises that people are making, and they're not quite sure what to do. You know, whenever these things happen, the psychological effect is very, very real on buyers. Perhaps it is even on you. Consider that there are many, many others like you. And eventually, you'll have the good idea of, okay, maybe now I'll try to get into the market. Seems like things are slowed down. Maybe we get a bargain. Okay, you and 50 other thousand of your closest friends are going to have the same idea. And that's what happens. It's what happened in 2017 on the seller side. It's what happened this year on the seller side. Everyone's going to get a bargain. Everyone's pricing in their houses really low, undervalued to get a multiple offer situation. Guess what? I don't know, 25, 30, 40% max are getting an offer on their offer date. Do you see how many listings have relisted? So that was on the seller side. Buyers do the same thing. They wait. Now is a good time to get in. And then everyone does the same thing. And what happens? A lot of buyers, inventory is not that huge. And multiple offers start again, and all this, and it's a catch-22. Why am I saying this? Sincerely, consider, if you're looking at buying, consider being prepared and getting to do it now. That's a part of my Q&A. So, minimize myself here, do my best to get the heck out of the way. Sorry, guys, I should be better at this all these years doing this. Here we go. What are the takeaways from all this? What I want you guys to give, and again, I never want to waste people's time just for the sake of hearing my own voice. I get tired of it myself, believe me. What are the takeaways from what I just mentioned? The numbers, the stats, and those kinds of things, which of course you can pause this, you can go back. Two different parties, and obviously, so there's two takeaways. On the buyer side, make sure you get pre-approved as soon as possible. I can't believe this is still happening, and I don't blame you. I don't blame the buyer. I don't blame the people who don't buy and sell homes on a weekly basis. I blame those people who you work with. Sometimes it's your realtor or your mortgage people, whoever it is. If it's me, believe me, you would have heard this from me long before you even started your search, or if you had contacted me, I would have told you to go this. Get pre-approved. get your financing in place. With the interest rates going up undoubtedly, probably sometime in June, I believe. I don't have the date in front of me, forgive me. The rates are probably going to go up, maybe a quarter, maybe a 0.5%. Get pre-approved now. Get in now. The rates for those of you who have a few years under your belt, you know that the interest rates have been much, much higher in the past. Please get pre-approved. Please go to a mortgage person. I'm happy to refer, even if you're not going to use me for my real estate services, I'm happy to refer you to good, transparent, honest, and people with integrity that work in the mortgage field. Independent brokers are always my favorite. I have a few very good ones, as well as good bank people if you insist on going that route. Get pre-approved. Make sure you know exactly how much you can afford, and maybe lock in a nice rate before things start going up again. Know what the properties of interest are selling for. This is important, and you'll notice the communication with the realtor being of extreme importance. Honestly, I'm not trying to big up my own profession. Know your properties of interest, or what they're selling for. Not now, now, maybe middle of March, maybe April, but not what was happening in January, February. If you're looking at properties that were selling in January, February, you're not getting the right view. You're not getting the right perspective. Things have changed since then, and some prices in some areas have dropped since then. So that's important to note. So know what your properties of interest are selling for in those specific areas that you're interested in. Keep an eye on properties with long days on the market. This is good. This isn't you being a shark. This is you being prudent. And believe me when I tell you, if a seller really needs to sell and the market shifted on him, I've had it happen before. It's very disconcerting. Those folks aren't looking to get hosed, but they are looking for a buyer to come in at a fair offer, get in, especially with a flexible closing. Notice the note later on. And they'll be happy that they sold. You'll be happy to get a good deal, not, way over asking as per January and February of this year. So keep an eye on properties with long days on market. Again, where a realtor comes in to be handy. We can do that real quick for you, and you don't have to spend hours online. If you can keep your closing flexible, it could win you money. This is a biggie. Again, I refer you back to those sellers who bought something, want to sell now, and the market slowed down. Well, if you can come in at the exact closing date that they want, I could give you some examples of that. You may actually get a little bit more of a decent price for the house. Again, because they win, they get the closing they want. Obviously, their house has appreciated in the past few years, and you get not only a good deal, you actually, morally, you actually help somebody out, which is fantastic. Next, communicate with your realtor. That's going to be big throughout this whole thing. Honestly, get a good realtor. Obviously, I'm a realtor. I'd love to work with any one of you. I have worked with many of you who are watching this, but nonetheless, do communicate. All this information is so good to have. You should have us on a weekly basis, maybe even more often if you're actively looking in specific areas. So sellers, on the flip side, absolutely don't be discouraged. Please don't. Honestly, it's still a seller's market. You can see what the numbers are. Know the days on market in your area and where you're moving to. So same, very much in the same vein as the buyers. You have to know your days on market, and they have to be pretty recent. Even a week or two makes a difference. Believe me, I found that out in 2017 and 2022 the hard way. Depending on your numbers, consider selling first. So this is a conversation that every realtor, including myself, should have with people who are listing now or later, meaning now being the beginning of May until later. It's worth the conversation because in many areas for specific properties, listing low, hoping for multiple offers is just not going to work. It has to be either the perfect property or you have to have something particularly unique about your house. Other than that, honestly, it's a conversation to be had. You have to know days on market. You have to have your stats and everything in front of you. But then it may very well be, and you should be content with this because it's still good, list at market value. Not the low, but the market value. Because, well, for one thing, you'll probably get more showings that way as well. I mean, if you're too low, you're probably not the kind of showings you want anyway. So depending on the numbers, consider selling first if you're selling and buying. And the final thing here, know your financial capability. This is a biggie, especially if you're selling and buying. And for example, you're buying a house, you're selling, you've got lots of equity thanks to the amazing market and real estate investment. And you have lots of money in your house. Good to know. Again, this is communication with your realtor, communication with your mortgage person. Know how much equity you have in your house. You'll have a pretty good estimate, and know what your options are. Again, as markets shift, you want to have options. And if you can have options, it gives you such strength and peace of mind. You can bridge loan if necessary. If you're somebody who's closing a little bit later than you wanted to, you have a place to stay. Those kinds of things. Those are all things you want to communicate with a realtor. Make a game plan and have these worst case scenarios. Because life does happen. Again, to the best of us, and I'm going to pat myself on the back. To the best of us, life does happen. You want to have some exit strategies. You want to have some kind of plan Z versus A and B. So with that in mind, guys, the point being, buyers, it's easier for you. Sellers, be cautious, not because it's not a seller's market, but because you want to do well still and take advantage of still strong market and high demand The immigration is still going to continue. We had an enormous number of people immigrate. Some were students here. Instead of leaving, they decided to stay. And many obviously came in as well because the numbers continue to be high. We need labor and all kinds of different professionals and different pieces of people from different avenues of education, from medic to trades to all kinds of stuff. So what I'm saying is the value is still going to be there, guys. So Andrew the Realtor, thank you so much for your time. A little bit longer than I wanted, but I want to make sure the information is there. Forgive me if it was a little too much information. Feel free to go back. Feel free to contact me if you have any questions. I've gone over this probably 2 or 3 times just this week. I don't mind spending time with people. You guys are important. You guys are valuable, as is your time. So I'm happy to use mine to help you in some fashion. So, guys, have a great rest of May. Reach out if you need anything. And of course, I'll see you guys in June when it'll be hopefully a little warmer, a little bit sunnier. Take care.